We are Dino and Beth Medler, and we've been married for 22 years.
Well, we met, the way we met was at a church function that primarily married couples go to. Dino played ball with a lot of the guys that went to this event that they had once a month, and one of the team members that he played ball with, his wife, I worked with, and she had been inviting me to come to church specifically to meet Dino. She felt like we were perfect for each other, and for whatever reason I wasn't able to make it, and then finally this function was happening and she invited me to this function, and we met. Dino's the only single guy there, I'm the only single girl there, so it was a total hookup for the both of us, her getting us together. So that's how we met. It just started there.
Well, I don't know that I actually proposed to Beth for marriage. I had been in the Navy about 8 years at the time whenever Beth and I met, and she was a little bit familiar with how the military worked, in the sense that her sister was married to a Coast Guardsman. And we had, over the course of the short time we had been together, talked about my job in the Navy and what I did, and the opportunities that we had to travel and see different places every couple of years. And I think it just got to the point where we just both realized that we really just didn't want to be without each other. And our conversations kind of went from the kind of conversations people dating have to the kind of conversations that people who are planning their life together in marriage forever have. And next thing we know, we find ourselves in a mall at a jewelry store buying rings.
And something, let me add, something that he did during all that process was, if he asked me one time, he asked me probably 10 times, Beth, are you sure? Because military life can be difficult, moving every 3 years, and he wanted to make for sure that I was okay with this, that I could possibly be away from family and moving all the time. And so that was just part of those conversations. So some of the most challenging times in our marriage has been being a military family, moving every 3 years to places that we are unfamiliar with. Made it a little difficult, just because changing jobs for myself, changing schools for our children, doctors, and just everything that goes along with it, trying to find another church family, church home that we felt the Lord leading us to. And those things were difficult in the aspect of, we have to do it every 3 years, and that's just uncommon, unless you're military or another field that moves you around that often. But it was thankfully being together, it helped as far as getting where we needed to be and getting all those things set up and started, and as easily as possible in a short length of time. God's helped us through these challenging times by getting us involved with a church family quickly. Every time we moved, we were able to find a church home, and those people in the church became our family away from our family. So if we needed a babysitter, or just if we were having a difficult time, we had them to fall back on and rely on to help us through those times, or even with small things, they were there to help us. And that's how God provided for us during those difficult times, was just to really have a good foundation and with our church and with our church family.
One of the most challenging times in our marriage, I think, from my perspective, was really self-imposed. For those that know me well, know that I enjoy playing softball a lot. It's a passion of mine. I've been playing for well over 30 years at many different levels, very competitively. But there was a period of time in my life where I found myself literally every day of the week, every night of the week on the softball field playing. And it took me a little bit of time to kind of realize that, really, I don't have to have an affair with another woman to be unfaithful to Beth, in the sense of my responsibilities of being a husband and a father. And because many of those times, Beth was the one who was really left to take those burdens on. And I think the way that God helped me through this was in two ways. One is, as you might suspect, very deep, sincere conversations with Beth over that period of time, but really looking in examples in the Bible where I look at Israel, how Israel was God's chosen people, and for times Israel was very faithful to God and listened to His voice and obeyed Him, but there were other times where they specifically disobeyed and really worshiped false gods, and God referred to them as being in an adulterous relationship. And so I looked at that in the sense of, my responsibilities as a husband and as a father, that whenever my time, particularly with softball, was stolen, my talents, my resources, my affections, and I think that God kind of called me back when I realized in different studies through Jeremiah and Deuteronomy about this relationship with Israel and God, and certainly those deep conversations with Beth.
Okay, so for me, the most romantic thing that Dino does is I get these little love notes that I wake up in the morning to. They're not every day, and that's what makes it nice, because it's a little surprise. It could be something that is a verse out of the Bible encouraging me, or it could be something that he says that he loves about me, or just different little notes that he leaves for me in the morning that I wake up to. They really touch my heart.
So one of the romantic things that I think about from Beth is, there's this movie called Just Go With It. And the characters in the movie, played by Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston, are challenged to look at one another in the eyes and tell each other what they are most admire about that individual. Now, Beth and I don't often look at each other in the eyes because it just gets goofy and we can't do that. But what she'll do, and again, like her, it's not all the time, but it's special times, just when I need it the most, where she'll send a text message out of the blue that just says, she'll pick some quality of my character and just tell me, what she appreciates about that, and that is an encouragement to me. And it's really pretty impressive because I feel like sometimes I don't give her a lot of material to work with. So I appreciate that. So a piece of marriage advice that I would give is in kind of two categories. One for those who are not married that are seeking. I would say just pray and ask for God's guidance and really follow His voice and stay true to who you are as a Christian and the values that God places on Christian marriage. I would say with those who are married, sometimes we hear that a relationship or marriage is a 50-50 proposition. I would say that that's false because I believe that each individual has to give 100% every day. In the sense that, I think sometimes we think of marriage in this 50-50 proposition. It's almost like a economic transaction where I give you 50% and I'm expecting 50% back. And I'll just give you a little bit of, heads up that, there's going to be days where I will not give Beth everything I have. And I also know that there will be days where she will not give me everything she has. And in your relationship, you can count on that. I think sometimes we may treat our spouse like a vending machine, in the sense that you put money in the vending machine, you press the button, and you're expecting to get your favorite potato chips out of the vending machine. The economic transaction. And maybe since we're talking about advice, men, maybe that's not the best advice to compare your wife to a bag of potato chips. However, to keep it simple is I think always give more than you expect to get.
So advice that I would give is to those that are getting married or already married is, again, that the Lord is center to your marriage, and you keep Him first, always. And conversation, that you always are talking with each other, because we don't read each other's minds. We can't read each other's minds, and I think the way you can know what someone's thinking and the way they're feeling is by conversation. I feel like when you stop having conversation, that's when your relationship can start to take a turn that you really don't want. I think conversation is very important.